My name's Ross Watson. I'm Dawson River Murray, this is Central Queensland. Kungaloo people. That was my mum's country and my grandmother's country. Where they set up Warrabinda, that's where my grandmother was born. Before they set up the mission there. My dad's country was the Birigubba around Nebo, the Biri clan. Yes, I was born 1944. I went to school in Theodore. We used to do 15 mile a day on horseback to get to school and home. And sometimes in winter time, sometimes we wouldn't get home till after dark if the horses played up. When I was 14, the Catholic priest, he passed the hat around the area there, and they got enough. They sent me off to college, Christian Brothers College at Japan. I went there for 4 years till I was 18 by the time I finished high school. And I was a bit ahead of my time there because not a lot of Murrays were complete in primary school even. And yeah, like I said, when I left that place, I was looking in the newspaper and I seen how in America the black Americans were asking the bishops over there to let them sit wherever they wanted in the churches. They didn't want to have to sit up the back, segregated in the church. And when I seen that made me a bit shamed, you know. I'd been with the Catholics there all that time, and I'd seen the better side of them. But that other side was there all the time. It never surfaced a lot because we didn't talk about things a lot. We just sort of, you put up with things to try and make things a bit better. Because that act was still enforced. But me mum and dad, they were both clear of that. So they were voting and stuff like that. Before the referendum, they used to go and vote. I never bothered about enrolling to vote till I was past 50 before I did. But as a young person, I didn't have enough respect for that system. And I know, seeing those Commonwealth Games coming to Brisbane, and they're going to call them the Goodwill Games. And gee whiz, the government we had at that time and the police force, the corruption was right through them, top to bottom. And of course, for corruption to be right through and to last that long, it's got to be, the media's got to be complicit, the judiciary, law enforcement's got to be complicit and all that sort of stuff. So it was right through the whole system. When I saw this goodwill stuff, I thought, nah, that's not right. Turn your stomach, you know, to see those, because they'd bring a lot of black countries come, you know. And I thought, no, that's terrible. If they're going to bring me and tell them, well, this is a good place, we're all good people and it's a happy place and all goodwill. That's the one thing it wasn't. It's not a goodwill place. So, yeah, I sort of set up a little committee, called it a protest committee. And that went off the rails after a while. I hadn't been involved in things up till then. I sort of stood back a bit. My family was all there, but those Commonwealth Games had brought me out of my comfort zone. And the committee didn't go too good. I sort of left that not long after I set it up, and that's when I started. I published that newspaper called Black Nation. And I did one about 6 months before the games, and another one about the night before they started, and then one just after they finished. I did 5 altogether between 1982 and 1985. The last one came out. Yeah, no, the idea when it was set up, because early in 1982 they put out a front page of the weekend newspaper, said there was a 500 strong black army in North Queensland training to come down and disrupt the games, put blood on the streets and all that sort of stuff. And there was a lot of rot. It turned out that there was one Maori fella up there, I don't think he was too bright, and a couple of non-Aboriginal people, and they had one broken rifle that didn't work. And this bloke, he was living like a hippie in the bush, and he was a 500 strong army training. That was the sort of stuff that came out of the government's mouth, that the media published on front page. And when the truth came out, there was no apology to our people for the misinformation or their attempts to destroy goodwill. There was no apology or even acknowledgement. Just the fact that they were wrong. So we determined, we sort of worked it out that they wanted to see violence on the streets. Because they'd turned their back on us, and they'd use that to avoid the issues we were talking about. So we made a determination that the protests would be peaceful, that we wouldn't give them we wouldn't allow the distraction of protesters wrestling on the streets with police. We said, no, that's gonna, the cameras will just focus on that, and that's all they're going to talk about. We want them to talk about the issues. We want them to talk about that act that's still in force. People's wages being stolen, kids being taken, no land rights. We wanted to talk about that sort of thing. And they're the things that we concentrated on. By the time the games actually came up, the protest committee wasn't anymore. But all the other organisations come in, and they ended up there was a little tent city down in Musgrave Park. There might have been 500 people camped there. There might have been a couple of thousand people there every day. And Auntie Janie and the elders, they come down. They had a tent there, the women's tent. They were putting on food there. The legal service had a tent there. The health service had a tent. The Aboriginal workers in Centrelink, they were down there processing. The people who came through had to process their forms and that. They were there doing all that. It was very, very impressive how the community came out and made that park function. And that part wasn't organised beforehand. It was pretty spontaneous. One time there, I don't know how, but I ended up chairing one of the big meetings in the park with the loudspeaker thing. And somebody pointed to one bloke there. I thought he was a Murray, and they said, oh, this bloke wants to talk. I gave him the megaphone, and the first thing he said was, now I just want to tell you fellas, he said, and I'm a white man. And as soon as he got that far, I thought, nah, hang on. I said, oh, sorry, bloke. Brother, I said, I've got to take this back. And I took it back off him, and I said, I apologise. I didn't know this fellow was a white fella. I said, because this meeting here, these meetings, I said, only black fellas talking here, I'm sorry. We've been listening to white fellas for 200 years, and no offence, a lot of them are good people. And if the white fellas want to talk, the big space over there, half the park over there, in that part of the oval over there, the white fellas can talk there, but this one here is best if just the black fellas talk. So that's the way it went. That was there was no bad feelings with it. It was just the fact that there was that many of our mob had come in. It was important that we spoke amongst ourselves. The thing about the park, the big thing about it was there was no voting for any decisions. All the decisions there came from consensus. When anybody had concerns about an issue, they got up and spoke about it, and then the discussion kept on going until that was resolved. And it was a real good feeling, because it turned out there was no leaders, there was no bosses, it was just that mob of people there, and there was no voting, because that's something that's our tradition, it's consensus. Once you vote, you can manipulate people's brains, you can manipulate the issues, and that divides people. And that's something that we knew not to vote. And that was a big thing that came out of there, just because that meant everybody owned the protest. Everybody was there, everybody was the same part. It was a very important time. No, just everybody was marching. I don't remember being part of the decision to do that. I went along, all of a sudden, hey, everybody's marching, oh, well, good, I'll march along here. And then when we got to the overpass over the freeway from Garden City going down towards the Kuril too, over the overpass there, on the other side of it, they had about 2 or 3 lines of policemen right across the road. And I saw that, and then everybody had their arms linked. And I thought, oh, if them bullymen come charging at people with batons, people could get hurt quite severely. And somebody must have said to us previously, no, if they're going to do that, people are best just sitting immobile. And if anybody's rushing around mad and committing mayhem, it won't be the protesters. They'll be visible as being peacefully sitting down and with their placards and stuff like that. So there didn't seem it seemed like we hadn't discussed that on the what's name. So I just was able to get people to sit down, but they couldn't hear me because the people had megaphones everywhere, and there was flags and a lot of excitement, you know, a lot of people. So I thought, well, the best thing to do that I could think of was just where they could see me out the front, was sat down in the middle of the road. And of course other people come and sat beside me, another 3 or 4 people. And people sat down. So when the bullymen moved, they didn't have people running this way and that way. They was able to come through in a pretty orderly way and grab the people they wanted to arrest. So, and I think from that first part, I think that sort of established the pattern for us. Then we didn't have to worry about wrestling on the beachman with the bullymen. Because the bullymen, they had it in their brain that there was going to be violence and bloodshed. That they'd been getting that sort of message amongst themselves. And some of those ones arrested, they said to us, they said over at the paddy wagon, they said the police were asking, when are you going to start shooting? They were expecting bullets to come out. That's how they'd been prepared. But one thing we felt very pleased about was the fact that we avoided the violence, we got our message across it, and the media, we were on, they had photos of our protests right around the planet. They went right around. We were very pleased about that.